Thank you for joining us today for the St. James Court Art Show kickoff. Since 1957, the first year of the St. James Court Art Show, it's been held in the same historic Old Louisville location as St. James Court and the surrounding streets. Now, 67 years later, the St. James Court Art Show attracts over 650 artists from all over the country, 46 states and Canada. And it's the longest running show of its kind in America. The St. James Court Art Show attracts some of the finest artists and craftspersons in North America, receiving about 4 times the number of applications than available exhibit space. So it's highly selective. The cultural impact on our community that is being presented with such an incredibly unique opportunity to see and purchase work from such talented artists is significant. And the Filson is thrilled, delighted, ecstatic to be part of such a special event in Louisville and the surrounding region. The Filson Historical Society is proud to be a community partner with St. James Court Art Show. We are honored to be part of this annual kickoff event. This year, we're excited to receive a generous donation from the St. James Court Art Show that you'll soon learn more about. Without further talk from me, I'd like to introduce the founding genius, Howard Rosenberg, Executive Director of the St. James Court Art Show. Howard?
As Richard said, who would have thought that 67 years after the first art show, the first clothesline art show, that we'd be here today? That is truly remarkable. I also want to announce formally that the St. James Court Art Show was selected the #1 fine art and design show in America. This isn't the first time that's happened. And I'm often asked, what do you do to be #1? And my answer is we don't think about being #1. We think about doing the best job we can do. We have 4 main constituents: the artists. Without the artists and the caliber of artists we have, there'd be no art show. The second thing is the patrons. We want to have a venue, one of the most unique venues in America for an art show, where the patrons feel welcome. And there'll be 225,000 people visiting St. James over the 3 days of the art show. Another thing is our responsibility to the Old Louisville neighborhood. I mean, when you look at this great neighborhood, we have, as I said, one of the most unique venues of any art show in America. And we work hard as neighborhood associations and the St. James Court Art Show to make that happen. What we do is focus on being the best we can be. We start planning for the next art show as soon as the current art show is over. And I think we do a pretty good job. But for us, it's not about trying to be #1. As Richard said, over 600 artists representing 17 mediums will be at this year's art show. And it takes a great team. You know, I am honored to stand in line with all the other directors that have directed this show. But without the team that we have in place today, our art show wouldn't be what it is. And I want to name those people who represent directors of the various sections. That's Mary Martin from the 3rd Street Association, Drew Lehman from the 4th Street Association, Larry Askins from the 1300 block of 3rd Street, Rick Serpa from the Belgravia Association, Reverend D'Artagnan Hill from the West End Baptist Church, and Karen Clayton, Director of the St. James Court Section and Assistant Director of the show. I want to mention one other thing. This is an art show that gives back to the community, and back in a big way. Everyone that I just mentioned, including the St. James Court Art Show, are nonprofits. The money that we make goes back into the neighborhood to make sure it's taken care of. When you see the fountain on St. James, or the period lighting on 3rd Street, or the special lighting on 4th Street, that's because of the art show. The art show contributes about $250,000 to $270,000 back into this neighborhood on an annual basis. And I think that's pretty incredible. Now I have the extreme honor and pleasure to introduce the mayor. You know, I met him the summer he was running for office. And I was really impressed because David James, council president at the time, introduced him to me and said, this is the guy. And so I started reading and I started looking at articles about him to formulate my own opinion. One of the things that struck me about Mayor Greenberg was he had an opportunity to come to a meeting of old Louisville residents at Cindy Rapp's house. And what struck me the most was, and he was still running for office, he wasn't mayor at that time, he listened. He listened to what we had to say. He didn't have pat answers. He didn't come up with things that he thought we wanted to hear. He listened to us. And then soon after he was elected, we asked to meet with him. And this mayor's been hit with a barrage of issues from day one. But he agreed to meet with us in mid-February. And we walked out of that meeting knowing that we had a true partner in the mayor's office and his staff. And we're eternally grateful for that.
Thank you so much, Howard. I've not been able to accomplish, solve all of the problems that were raised at that meeting. I know we still got some planes flying overhead and some other issues, but we'll keep making progress every day. When Howard and I first met, we actually met at an arts event in Old Louisville. We met at the Jazz Fest right here in Central Park. And that's just yet another great example of how important arts is for a community, how it adds vibrancy and authenticity and creativity and energy to our community. And when you can do it in one of the best neighborhoods, not just in Louisville, but truly anywhere in this country, right here in Old Louisville, it is just so wonderful. So I am very thankful, Howard, to you and your entire team of everyone, supporters, volunteers, patrons, Councilman Baker, everyone else who works to make the St. James Court Art Show a reality every year. And it's great here to celebrate with you all today. This is such a unique event, again, not just for our city, but for our country, where you have artists that can show the work that they have done, where people can engage in commerce, where they can meet other people, all here in this absolutely amazing and gorgeous Old Louisville neighborhood. And again, for the second year, you can also take in a number of performances. So it's not just visual arts, but also performing arts by local artists in the Performing Village, thanks to our friends at Fund for the Arts. So Andre, thanks to you and your entire team. That was really fun to visit with you last year and see some of those great performances during the show. And I'm excited to what you have in store again for us this year. Art is such an important part of our community. It has been for the 67 years of the St. James Court Art Show, and it has been for even longer. As I mentioned earlier, just adds so much to it. I come from a background of the hospitality business. I helped start 21C Museum Hotels, and I saw through that experience the power of art to open people's eyes, to see things in new ways, to spur conversations about things they might not have been comfortable talking about, to learn, to meet new people. Art is such a powerful force of good in our community, and so that is just one reason why this is. It's also a huge economic driver. While Howard might have been talking about the direct amount of cash that goes from the art show organizations back into the neighborhood, our estimates are that it's over a $5 million impact on the local economy. When you think about people who come from all over the region and country to Louisville and what they do in terms of spending while they're here for this great long fall weekend in Louisville, it is such an important economic driver of our city, and that is one of the many reasons why my administration is so proud to continue to support this and so many other arts initiatives that we're doing in the city. When I first took office, one of the first things I did was elevate the Office of Arts and Creative Industry in the mayor's office, because as we've talked about, the arts are great for our economy, for our quality of life, And they truly are one of the things that I know can help us lead us to our goal of making Louisville a safer city, a stronger city, a healthier city. And there's no better example of the power of arts and neighborhood and parks and people than the St. James Court Art Show. So congratulations. I'm excited to be here with you all today, and I'm excited to come back for the show in just a few weeks.
Our next speaker, Councilman Philip Baker, 6th District Councilman Philip Baker. He had some big shoes to fill, and I think he has started down a path where he's going to fill those shoes. You know, I talked to him for months before we actually got to meet one another because of our schedules. But the thing that we talked about, and the thing that I've seen in Councilman Baker, is he's a problem solver, but he doesn't wait for the problem to come up. He tries to anticipate the problems and then works towards a solution. So proud to introduce our new 6th District Councilman, Philip Baker.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. He's absolutely right. There were big shoes. Deputy Mayor David James, who's been a staple in this neighborhood, has provided a great space for some shoes that I get to run in. So thank you, Howard, for that. Again, thank you all for being here. The St. James Art Show in this community, as everyone said, is of huge importance. It promotes and embodies what makes Old Louisville, Old Louisville. Those who are from Old Louisville know exactly what that means. When you bring in hundreds of national and international artists to 4 square blocks, again, 4 square blocks, it does nothing but promotes our wonderful city, increases the number of tourists in the area, and again, as the mayor stated, promotes and creates economic opportunities for all. The art show has been ingrained in this community, as Howard said, for 67 years. And since that has come, the community has embraced it since day one. I truly believe that this event brings people from all walks together. That's why I love it. And it gives us a chance to strengthen our bond with each other, forming the community we always love and hope to desire. No matter the weather or circumstance, and Howard, you know, this event always delivers. All right? It's so much more than the quote unquote, to me at least, art show. If you're like me, you enjoy sitting on the porch, the sight and the sounds and the smells, from viewing the different art and artists to enjoying the funnel cakes and turkey legs, to seeing hundreds of thousands of people with just simply a smile. It creates an excitement in this community like no other. And this art show is just simply, for me and my family and this community, a good time. I am honored to represent this district and honored to help sponsor this and help sponsor your team, Howard and Cindy, and have the St. James Art Show continue to be a staple in our neighborhood. I really, truly mean that. Thank you to our wonderful mayor, Howard, Cindy, Richard, and the Filson Historical Society, and the organizers, every neighborhood association, every volunteer, even the school parking. We all do our part. Let's make this year, the art show, the best we've ever seen. Thank you all, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you all in a few weeks. Thank you.
It is now my pleasure to introduce the president of the St. James Association, Cindy Rapp, who stepped into the fray, agreed to be president, was elected, and hasn't regretted it a day since.
Thank you, Howard. I just want to say that I feel really grateful to live in one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in the United States, and I've traveled a lot. And I'm also grateful to reside on St. James Court, which is a major tourist destination. And I can't tell you how many people come down and ask about our court from all over the world and want to have their picture taken at our iconic fountain. It's very special. While the city owns the grounds of St. James Court, our association is responsible for all the maintenance of the fountains, the lamps, the sidewalks, the greens, and we've been doing it for 67 years. But our only source of income for maintaining our court is the art show. That's how important it is for us to maintain the beauty of our court that is for our city and for our nation and beyond. The other Old Louisville associations also use those funds for the beautification of their streets. That's what makes our neighborhood so beautiful. While we feel fortunate to have a top-ranked art show in front of our homes, the cost of running the show has gone up dramatically over the years, as Howard can attest to. And we have aging trees, fountains, gas lamps. We have the notoriety of being on the back of Jack Harlow's new album. A huge tree fell on some poor doctoral student's car and crushed it. So anyone that buys Jack Harlow's new album will see that the tree on St. James Court, unfortunately, which has been a huge expense for us with all the storms. So our challenge is to maintain a #1 art show in the country while being financially sound in order to keep up our beautiful historic neighborhood. And I want to thank Mayor Greenberg and Councilman Baker and all of you who have come out to support the art show today. And I'm really hoping for 3 beautiful days and a great turnout for our artists.
I met Mark Bird several years ago, and we became close friends. Now, Mark Bird is the nephew of Malcolm Bird, one of the founders of the art show. And the reason the art show exists today is because Malcolm figured out there were more artists on the court than there were anything else. They tried bake sales, other ways to get money, basically to repair the fountain. So I was thinking, as Mark is called up here to make this special presentation, if there had been more bakers on St. James than artists, he would be presenting to the Filson some kind of cake, maybe a carrot cake or devil's food, I'm not sure. But Mark, please come up.
Good afternoon. It is such an honor and privilege for me to be standing before you today. You know, some artists' careers are launched via meager circumstances, yet they still manage to have had glowing careers, have seen far-off places, and end up thousands of miles from where they began. In 1981, my uncle, Sonny Whittle, and I were working in the carriage house behind us here on the alley. 42 years later, I have, from all appearances, progressed only 50 yards from that point in my career. I want to tell you a little bit about the making of both of these prints, but in the interest of time, I'll give you the highlights. You might not think these are the highlights, but trust me, the stories are deep, and I've cut it to the quick. But first, before that, let's lift the veil of art show history. Sonny and I were both professional architectural illustrators. This was long before the advent of CAD and 3D modeling software. You got out your pencil and produced a perspective drawing from which to produce a rendering. It was pointed out to us by a high-level graphic designer friend that our drawing style would lend itself beautifully to serigraphy or screen printing. One of our clients back in those days was an architect who was on staff at Humana back when Humana built hospitals. He had just returned from completing a 5K run in Chicago sponsored by the AIA. For his participation in the race, he received a beautiful poster, the highlight of which was an architectural element of the Tribune Tower. A seed of an idea was planted. It was August 1981. August. I had been telling Sonny all about my early days as a young person exhibiting at the St. James Court Art Show. He knew nothing about the art show, which I always and still found remarkable. One morning I said to him, maybe we should produce a screen print poster for the art show. Sonny was never one to shy away from a challenge. I told him I would call Malcolm Bird, my other uncle, and see what he thought of the idea. Malcolm was very excited, but also very skeptical about our short time frame, and since we had never produced a screen print poster in our lives. Remember, I told you Sonny was never one to shy away from a challenge. I then called my dear friends Ann Higby and Oscar Stremmel, the organizers of the show at the time, to arrange a meeting where we could all get our heads around this idea. It was decided we would produce a 1,000-piece limited edition screen print poster for the 25th annual St. James Court Art Show. We set the price at $25 with all the proceeds benefiting St. James. Onward towards the right, one can see how the art show was growing into the production it is today. And finally, on the far right, St. James Court without the fanfare, a neighborhood in all its regal splendor. Surrounding this window is a second appearance by the elevations of the court's houses, a nod to the work Sonny and I produced back in 1981. I wish to thank all my dear friends from the art show and all my friends here at the Filson for making today possible. It is so heartwarming to know that these works will be added to the Filson collection, preserved for generations to come. And of course, I'd like to invite all of you and your thousands of friends to the 67th Annual St. James Court Art Show, October 6th, 7th, and 8th. Thank you.
You can stay here. You can stay here. Again, I want to thank the Filson and Richard and Julie for their tireless work in making this partnership work. I want to thank the mayor, the councilman, Cindy. I want to thank all the directors. And we expect to see each and every one of you with a family member October 6th, 7th, and 8th at the St. James Court Art Show. Thank you all for being here.